It all began on an ordinary Tuesday. I was sitting at my cluttered desk, exhausted from hours of brainstorming for a presentation that could change the entire course of our department. My creativity had hit a wall, and the pressure was getting to me. Then I saw it. Liam's neatly stacked folder of ideas, left carelessly on his desk while he went for lunch. I knew Liam was brilliant, his concepts often far superior to what the rest of us could come up with. His notes were detailed, his vision clear. It was just lying there, practically begging to be discovered. The temptation was overwhelming. What would be the harm in just taking a peek, just to see if it could inspire me? But when I opened that folder, something in me snapped. I wasn't just looking for inspiration, I was stealing his work. I took his concepts, polished them up, and put them forward as my own. I told myself it was a one-time thing, a desperate move to meet the deadline. But deep down, I knew I was setting fire to the very core of my integrity. Days turned into weeks, and my stolen presentation was not only approved but applauded by the higher-ups. It became the centerpiece of our project's new direction, and I was hailed as a visionary. The praise was intoxicating, a powerful drug that numbed my conscience. They asked me to explain the concepts in meetings, and I somehow managed to articulate Liam's brilliance as if it was my own. My colleagues started looking up to me, treating me with a newfound respect that made me feel invincible. It felt like everything I had ever wanted, acknowledgement, validation, success, was finally within my grasp. But the more praise I received, the heavier the guilt became. Every time I caught Liam's encouraging smile across the conference room, it was like a dagger twisting in my chest. And yet, I pushed those feelings down, convincing myself that this recognition was deserved, that my execution of his ideas was what truly mattered, that it was my talent, not his, that brought them to life. But no matter how hard I tried to rationalize it, the truth continued to gnaw at me. I had built my success on a lie. The recognition I received was followed by heightened expectations. Suddenly, I was placed in charge of a new project, one far more complex than anything I had handled before. My bosses seemed to believe I had some creative genius, and my colleagues were eager to work with me. I was now the golden boy, the supposed mastermind. But my every move was clouded by the anxiety of being exposed. The more accolades I received, the more hollow they felt. I found myself spiraling into sleepless nights, rewriting presentations and double-checking data just to prove to myself that I was worthy of their praise. Yet, deep down, I knew that I was an imposter, a man wearing a stolen crown. The tension built within me like a ticking bomb, waiting to explode. But what made it worse was Liam's constant support. He still believed I was doing incredible work, even as I continued to profit from his brilliance. I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth. His trust in me was pure, his friendship unwavering. And I was destroying it with every lie I told, every success I claimed as my own. I wanted to confess, to end this charade, but the fear of losing everything kept me silent. So I pressed on, trying to bury my guilt beneath layers of ambition and desperation. But the weight of my betrayal grew heavier with each passing day. My double life continued, and with each passing day, the deception grew more complicated. One afternoon, I attended a conference where the company was being honored for its latest innovation, Liam's innovation. The irony wasn't lost on me. I stood on the stage, giving a speech filled with empty words of gratitude and inspiration. But then, as the applause echoed through the hall, I spotted him, Liam. He was in the audience, his expression unreadable. My blood ran cold. What was he doing here? Did he know? As I continued speaking, my eyes kept drifting toward him, my voice trembling. His presence was a reminder of the truth I had buried beneath layers of accolades and false praise. The speech ended, and I quickly made my way off the stage, my heart pounding. Liam approached me with that same friendly smile I had known for years. But now, his kindness only served to twist the knife of guilt deeper. "You've really made a name for yourself," he said, his tone genuine. I could barely respond, muttering words of thanks that sounded hollow even to my own ears. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. All I could think about was how much I had wronged him, the man who had trusted me, supported me, and never once suspected my betrayal. The guilt was becoming unbearable. Yet I still couldn't bring myself to confess. The encounter with Liam left me shaken. The walls of deceit I had built so carefully were now starting to crumble. I became paranoid, second-guessing every word, every presentation, every conversation. The stress affected my work, and my performance began to decline. Yet, the praise kept coming, as if my colleagues were blind to my deteriorating state. I was a wreck, but no one seemed to notice. Or maybe they chose not to. After all, I was the supposed genius, the man with all the answers. But the truth was, I had no answers. I had only lies. The anxiety became so overwhelming that I started avoiding Liam altogether. I couldn't bear to see his face, couldn't handle the possibility of him finding out the truth. But as much as I tried to run from my guilt, it followed me like a shadow. It gnawed at me during the quiet moments, whispering that my success was built on a foundation of betrayal. And the more I tried to silence it, the louder it grew. I had to confront the truth. But doing so meant risking everything I had gained. And I wasn't sure if I was ready to pay that price. Liam reached out to me one night, asking to meet up. His message was casual, friendly even, but I could sense that something was different. Reluctantly, I agreed, and we met at our usual spot, a quiet bar where we had spent countless evenings sharing dreams and frustrations. But this time, the air between us was heavy with unspoken words. As we sat across from each other, Liam's gaze bore into me, his expression searching. "I've been hearing things," he said, "about your latest projects. They sound familiar." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I could have lied. I could have twisted the truth and continued the charade. But something inside me snapped. The guilt, the shame, the constant fear of being exposed, it all came pouring out. I confessed everything. I admitted to taking credit for his work, to pretending that his brilliance was my own. I told him about the pressure, the accolades, the hollow praise that had only deepened my guilt. When I was done, my voice was shaking, my hands trembling, and all Liam did was stare at me, his expression unreadable. Liam's silence stretched on, heavy and suffocating. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, too calm. "You took everything I worked for," he said. "Every late night, every breakthrough. You claimed it as yours." His words were blades, cutting deep and leaving me raw. I tried to explain, to justify my actions with weak excuses about pressure and expectations, but nothing could erase the betrayal. Liam looked at me with an expression that spoke of both sorrow and fury, his eyes glistening with pain. "I trusted you. I considered you a friend." The word friend sounded bitter on his tongue. I wanted to apologize, to somehow make it right, but the damage was done. Liam stood up and walked away, leaving me alone with the weight of my actions. The days that followed were a blur of self-loathing and regret. Every accolade, every praise felt like poison. The guilt that had once been a shadow now consumed me entirely. I knew I had lost something far more valuable than any recognition or success. I had lost a true friend. Months passed, each day feeling heavier than the last. I couldn't escape the guilt, the memory of Liam's eyes filled with betrayal. I tried to move on, throwing myself into work, but it was never the same. The achievements I once craved felt hollow. I realized that the only way to find any semblance of peace was to make things right. With shaking hands, I reached out to Liam. I apologized again, but this time, I didn't just offer words. I offered to publicly acknowledge his work, to return what I had stolen. I was ready to sacrifice everything I had built on the foundation of his brilliance. Liam listened, his expression unreadable. He didn't forgive me. Not then, maybe not ever, but he accepted my attempt at redemption, acknowledging that I was trying to do the right thing. The process was grueling. Admitting the truth to the world meant facing ridicule, shame, and the loss of everything I had gained. But it was also freeing. The weight of my deception began to lift, slowly but surely. The confession changed everything. My reputation took a hit, but strangely enough, I found relief in the honesty. I rebuilt my career, this time with integrity. Opportunities were scarce, but I didn't mind. I was content to start over. I continued to reach out to Liam, not expecting forgiveness, but hoping he would see that I was genuinely trying to make amends. Over time, the hostility in his eyes softened. We never returned to what we once were, but we found a fragile understanding. I began to find my own voice, my own creativity. The praise I received was no longer stained by deceit. It was genuine, earned through my own efforts. I realized that the success I had so desperately craved was meaningless if it came at the cost of betraying someone I cared about. Liam and I might never be friends again, but the fact that he could look me in the eye was more than I deserved. Years passed. I continued to work on my own projects I could truly call mine. My journey toward redemption was far from perfect, but it was real. The guilt never completely left me, but it became a part of me, a reminder of the mistakes I had made and the lessons I had learned. I ran into Liam at another conference. This time, our interaction was different. He smiled at me, a small, genuine smile. It wasn't forgiveness, it was something more, understanding, acknowledgement that I had tried to make things right. I walked away from that conference feeling lighter. I would never undo the harm I had caused, but I had finally learned how to move forward. And that, in itself, was enough. I had made peace with my past and embraced the man I had become.